Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Savor Life with Diana. That's right. We are here joined by our coach, by our author, by our friend who's really helping you be the best you possible. And you know what? Hope you had a great weekend. Happy Mother's Day to you. And it's an exciting weekend for us women, wasn't it?
Happy Mother's Day. Yeah, it was great. I loved it.
I'm glad. And to all those mothers out there, the same. And that's what you're helping people do, really live their best life, savoring it to each and every endless way. And you're helping people coach as a burn through catalyst speaker. You're helping them coach as a life coach. Tell us a little overview of what you're doing with people. And then we're going to start today's conversation.
Yeah, I love working with high-performing leaders who want it all, and they don't want to sacrifice their family, their health, their sanity in the pursuit of their big dreams. I believe that there is actually a way to do all that. We just need a formula, and that's what I teach my clients is like, how do we have it all? How do we have the things that we really want and not have to sacrifice the things that matter most to us?
Hard topic here today. Very difficult because some people don't know how to balance it all, manage it all, vice versa, including myself at times. So there's a lot of obstacles we face, and we're going to talk a little bit about maybe, this thing, we talked about boundaries in the past, and maybe it's time to set boundaries, but why does no one tell you this when you start setting boundaries? So wait a sec, what's happening here? Let's talk a little about boundaries overall, and then how we're going to say goodbye to the old you.
Yeah. So we tend to talk about boundaries like they're this empowered, like badass thing, right? And they can be, right? They totally can feel badass and empowered. But what I really find is that the deeper the boundary and the more important the boundary, the messier and the more uncomfortable it feels. Because yes, we can set a boundary in certain instances, and it can feel like, wow, like that feels great. But there can be some boundaries when we're setting them. They are cycle breaking. They rewrite our story, and they don't feel strong at first. They feel like grief. They feel like fear, like guilt, like second guessing yourself. It can feel like you're doing something wrong, but you're not. And what's really happening is you're no longer abandoning yourself in the way that feels more comfortable. So when I say RIP to the old you, what I'm talking about is like this version of you who doesn't, who is people pleasing or who is not setting the boundary. This version of you is going to die. By nature. It's a question of, are you going to allow this version of you to die with your own physical death, or are you going to allow her to die beforehand? And you get to choose if this version of you either rests in peace in a grave or rests in performance. So if you are going to get over just simply performing for other people and start really doing things for yourself, that is a different thing. But it's one or the other. It's rest in peace or it's rest in performance. And either way, this version of you that's people pleasing has to die.
All right. How do we do that though? Because it's a little scary.
Yeah, it absolutely is. So when we've spoken about boundaries before, one of the things that I shared, and I still absolutely believe this, is that when we come to boundaries, there is a way of, instead of simply just setting a firm boundary and saying, no, this is the only way that it could be, opening up for co-creation or for collaboration, where it's like, hey, these are the places where I'm not flexible, and these are the places where I am flexible. But the thing is, when you do that, one of two things can happen. So either somebody's going to meet you where you're at and say, okay, I can work with your boundaries, or they can't. And when someone can't work with your boundaries, there can be a lot of fear and grief and difficulty around that, because you still care about the person, you still care about the relationship, you don't want to let that go. And so there can be this other experience of boundaries that's not empowered. It's difficult, it's uncomfortable. And for me, like, I think about this, there have been some situations like with my mom where, like, my mom has been really, really helpful with both my parents, but my mom especially has been really, really helpful as I've been navigating like single motherhood. They come for a couple months at a time sometimes, and they help. And I always tell other people, other moms when they have their mom help or somebody else come help, it's like it's free help, but it costs.
Yeah, it's
Like
true.
like you have help, but it's not like if you were paying for help, it would be a different level of help kind of thing. And same thing, I think the same is true. Like even if you're thinking about like getting coached or getting like help from somebody like in terms of support, like there's a cost that you're paying when it's free always. And there's something that happens when you're working with like something professional, right? And the same is true again, like when you have like childcare, those things, right? So there are times where like I will notice my mom wanting to do things a certain way and it's not the way that I want to do it, right? And so my tendency in the past would be to like over explain, to backtrack, to like try to make her comfortable. And what I've been working on myself is like not doing that. I'm not going to over explain. I'm going to
Wants,
state
my
my
desires
truth.
for my child, but
Yeah.
like, yes,
Yeah, for
without
myself,
feeling
for her.
guilty.
Yeah. And not feel guilty. And like sometimes when you do that though, right? Like there was a recent situation where I did it with like my daughter's healthcare appointment or something. And like after I did it, it kind of, I don't know if you've ever had this feeling, Jill, but it's kind of like, did I say that? You know what I mean?
Quite
Like
empowering, quite oh my
yeah.
gosh, did I just do that? But at the same time, I did it. It's a first step.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But like I want to presence that because like I said, boundaries don't always feel like, yeah, so strong. Like whatever, there's this piece of you too that can feel like, oh, like I'm not sure, can I really do that boundary, and that's okay, right? That discomfort, it's part of the growth, right? That grief that you feel, that fear that you feel, it means that you're growing, right? Like I always say, like if you're really becoming braver, one of the things that you will feel is fear. Like fear is an inevitable part of courage, like real courage. So when you're building real courage, like you are gonna feel fear. When you're rebuilding like happiness and all that, you're going to feel grief for what's getting lost. Because what we're doing, right, is we're not just saying no to them, we're saying goodbye to who we used to be. And that's why it's so hard, right? That's
Mhm.
we're letting go of that old version of ourselves, and that feels scary, right? So
Yes.
that version of us, she may have made things easier for everybody, but she wasn't making easier for you,
Got it.
right? It's a version of you that's keeping the peace, but doesn't actually know what peace feels like.
Got
There's like
it.
a huge difference when it comes to comfort and alignment. And a lot of times, the old you, we're just trying to stay comfortable and just surviving and not really aligned with what we want.
hmm Well, how are we going to align? How do you work on aligning?
Yeah, well, for me, that alignment comes from getting clear on what you really want. Like I think that a lot of times like the fear is we start to project like, oh, is this person going to be mad at me for what I say? Is this person going to be upset about me putting this boundary forth or speaking my truth, right? And that's a little bit what I want to talk about because there's this fear that nobody talks about, right? And the thing is that it's not necessarily that we're afraid to speak up.
Yeah.
It's that we're afraid to be misunderstood. We're not just afraid of setting boundaries, we're afraid of people thinking we're cold, that we're mean, that we're selfish, that we're disloyal, that we're too much. And I think last time we talked about like thinking that we're a biatch, right? Like we
hmm
don't want people to think that about ourselves, right? And so there's a part of us that when we feel that, what we're really experiencing there is this fear of losing the version of ourselves that people admire, the agreeable one, the one um, that everybody that's like easy to like, because we're afraid that if we are real, they won't like the real us.
Yep. I know it's such an intimidating factor too, even in the workplace and speaking up. And as a female, I feel like it's a little more difficult, challenging for us, fearful for me at least.
Yeah, right. Like, I know, especially in the media industry, a lot of times, like women can get mislabeled as difficult when what they're really doing is stating boundaries. And like, there's really nothing wrong with us saying like, hey, I'm okay with this and I'm not okay with this, but there can be places where people push us or make us feel less than when we do set a boundary. Like for example, I set boundaries around like what time my work stops. So like I don't work past 4 o'clock. Once 4 o'clock comes around, it's time for, like, I call it like me and my daughter bonding time, right? Like we bond before we start our like nighttime routine. And for me, that's non-negotiable. And when I started setting those boundaries, I like felt all these reasons why I needed to keep making appointments past 4, right? I kept second guessing myself. And it wasn't that I was wrong, it's that I was afraid of disappointing people, right? Like, what if somebody wants to book a 5 p.m. or, I can talk to somebody after she goes to sleep, right? And I did that for a little bit. And then I realized I was like, I can't consistently do this. Like, I don't want to not be able to fully rest and relax with my daughter and then like wake up and like have to perform some more. Like, I want to be able to rest. I want to be fully present with her, not thinking about like, oh, I only have until 7 o'clock and then I have to
Yeah.
go get on
This,
this phone call.
this appointment, this call.
Yeah. And I think for you, Jill, I know because I had been looking at scheduling something later potentially for us, and I was like, no, Jill's done at a certain time. I think this is like one of your last slots
At
before
4,
we
my
get,
last
yeah,
4 p.m. Eastern Standard, because my kids get off the bus at 3:35.
yeah,
They're okay for 15 minutes, but after that, it's impossible. And then we have homework, then we have sports, religion tonight, baseball tomorrow. Yeah, I just can't do it anymore. And it's funny you
yeah,
said that. I have another part-time job now at a doctor's office, and they want me to stay later on certain days. And I'm like, I did for the first 2 months. I sacrificed to train to learn, but now I'm like, I can't. I'm like, I can't keep being a babysitter to be here. It's not worth it. And the commute, and I have to be with my kids. So I had to set boundaries in a second email last Friday, which I was a little scared about because I'm like,
yeah,
why are they not getting it? They hired me to work from home and I'm still there and I'm doing the right thing. I'm coming in, I'm committed, I'm learning, I'm training to do leads and all, but I'm like, wait, why are they not understanding? And I'm getting like a little pushback and I'm thinking, why? I'm like, okay, a first month, not ready yet, even though I was. Okay, second month, I ask again, I have every right to, because this is supposed to be a train for a few weeks and then come in, work from home
yeah,
job. And now all of a sudden it's like, yeah, it's getting weird like that. And I'm like, I put my foot down and I said it very kindly in an email, but firmly how, as we discussed, like,
yeah,
people don't understand boundaries. I'm like, I don't get it. But
yeah,
again, I look at the women who I'm talking to, the bosses who have older kids. Maybe they just don't remember, maybe they don't get it, but I don't know.
yeah. I think also one of the things too sometimes about the current climate when it comes to kids, like, is there was a time where a lot of the boundaries that we were that we're working on feeling more comfortable setting these days, where they weren't respected, where those
Yeah.
women like couldn't even necessarily ask for the things that we are
Hmm.
now not afraid
Given.
to ask for, right? Or
Yeah.
like feeling the fear about asking still, but like starting to test that, can I ask for this, right, kind of thing. And I think that it's, like, it is like a sign of the times, right? Like every single generation, as we evolve, people are like, there are things that like right now, like we're not setting boundaries around, that like our children are going to be like, obviously I'm going to set a boundary around this. And where it comes from is from us being in our place of discomfort, right? Like it's like we're paving a path, and we're going to pave it up to a certain level that it can be paved, and they're going to continue paving it based on how they saw us lay the bricks and how they saw us
Yeah.
um, put up the things that, build the things that we wanted. So
Yeah.
there's only going to be a next level of boundary that they're going to get a chance to set, but it's always going to be uncomfortable for the previous generation because they set it as far as they could set it, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. So to me, like, I think that fear is not the boundary, right? It's the fear is the loss of the role that we've played, right? It's the fear of the loss of the approval, of the good girl, of the like, oh, you're so agreeable, right? And it's not that we're being controlling. Like, I think that, I don't know, like that was I wrote this episode because I was like, I was coming up against some like personal boundaries with like co-parenting and things like that. And I was feeling all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, these are really hard boundaries for me to set, right? I feel like, and I'm like telling myself stories about what the other people are saying, like, oh, they're, Diana's just being controlling, right? Like, but the thing is, like, I realize like I'm not being controlling. You're not being controlling. What we're doing is we're no longer cushioning other people's chaos, right? Like, and if our clarity is making them uncomfortable, that's really feedback. It's not our failure, right? Like, how many times is it that we go above and beyond for other people, or do things to make other people comfortable, and we're not like why don't we ourselves deserve the comfort? Why don't we ourselves deserve the peace? And I think that we do. And us setting boundaries around this allows for us to say like, yeah, this is the peace and the comfort that I want. And I think one of the things that's hard or sad that happens with this is that means that some relationships don't stand. Not all the things that we want to come forward with us are going to come forward simply because they're not comfortable with the boundaries that we're setting. But ultimately we have to be comfortable. And there can be this like grief around the letting go of like, okay, well, I guess if this isn't good with you, then this isn't good with me. You know what I mean? Um, and yeah, and that's how I think we can sometimes have this self-advocacy, but feel and that sounds empowering. It sounds really like strong and like bold, but honestly, it can feel a little crappy. It feels like guilty. It
It
feels,
did. That's what you said, self-advocacy with a side of guilt.
yeah,
So
yeah,
true. It is.
yeah. Right.
Oh,
And that guilt doesn't mean that I'm wrong. It doesn't mean that you're wrong. It means that we're
no.
growing. So we want to be bold, right? But sometimes, like, we advocate for ourselves, and then we're spiraling into this guilt hangover, right? And we're like feeling all this discomfort. And I don't know about you, but for me, I'm like, oh my God, like they're probably saying I'm so difficult. They're probably thinking this about me, right? Like, and like I want to go back on my word. Like I'm like, oh, maybe I
Mm-hmm.
just tell them like, forget it, like I'll deal with it, right? Um, and it's like we're second guessing this clarity because in some way we're addicted to the approval, right? Like their approval is more comfortable for us than our own discomfort. Like our discomfort is more comfortable. And our their approval is more comfortable than our own self-approval and our comfort in a way, if that makes sense.
Got it. It sure does. All right. What else for today? My goodness. As a woman, I'm sorry. It's so hard sometimes to stand up for myself and
It
to
is. Yeah.
without feeling guilty. And then you got me thinking about when you mentioned your mom, watching, Olive and stuff. And I do the same thing with my sister because like a babysitter that I hire, she's good. She does everything. She does everything I want. And then my sister comes in and I'm trying to help her make some extra money to watch my kids. And then it's like, she's like, well, why am I doing that? Or why does it have to be that? And I'm like, why are you questioning me? I'm like, I'm not slaving you, but I'm paying you to watch my kids. I'm not, I'm like, it's just part of the routine. Like when you come into the house as the babysitter, you have to also scoop the cat litter. Like that's part of the daily routine. If I'm not there for a few hours, those are some of the things that have to get done. She's like, well, I don't want to be like a maid. I'm like, a maid. I'm like, it's just part of it. Like if you're there I was home for 4 hours, I have to scoop my litter. Like, so yeah, but she's not, doesn't get it. She fights back. I think because she's family.
Yeah, for sure. And it's one of those things where sometimes it's just hard, right? Like I said, free help always costs, or like um like
Yes.
family help always like costs in a way, even if it's like if it feels like we're you know helping somebody else out or doing any of those things,
Like in
right?
return, you got to give it back. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
exactly, right? So I like ultimately though what we're doing is we're voicing a need, right?
Yeah.
And when we're doing it calmly and firmly, even if we're like shaking in the background, like nobody can see that, but like maybe we're like, "Oh, I'm setting this boundary, I'm like expressing my need," and we're wanting to come off as like calm and firm, but we're like really shaking and like feeling like maybe I need to explain myself more, right? Um, but then after for me with like I mentioned, like with co-parenting, I've been setting like better boundaries. I noticed that I'm sleeping better, right? I have more peace instead of just feeling the guilt. And that's how we know that we are setting good boundaries. That's how we know that we are really speaking up for ourselves, advocating for ourselves. Because yes, there can be a little bit of that guilt, especially in the moment, but like after you said it, you're like, yeah, that was right for me, right? And that's how we know that we're healing as well, right? Because guilt, it's
Oh,
really just this like echo of the old conditioning, right? It's not a sign that we're out of integrity. If we're out of integrity, then we'll continue to feel it and be like, you know what, like I really was in the wrong here. Like I'm gonna shift things, right? But if instead it's like we feel guilty for a moment, it can be really more like that version of us who's dying, right? Like I forget, there's a term for like right before somebody dies, where they like can come back to life a little bit or like have like a reinvigorating moment. And that's kind of like something that your old limiting beliefs, that old version of
yeah.
self that we've said RIP to, will experience as well. It's like it comes back to life for a second, right? Like it fights a little bit more. And so sometimes when we feel that, we can want to like capitulate, right? We can want to give up and be like, okay, like I really can't do this. But it's actually the moment where we really want to stand strong and say like, no, I can do this. I know that this is going to happen because that old limiting belief, that old version of myself who is people pleasing, I'm ready for her to die. I'm ready to be more the authentic version of myself. And like I think that when it comes to people pleasing, it's not something that like like sometimes people will be like, I'm a former people pleaser. I kind of think that it's what it
Oh,
is. It's
good.
like you have this conditioning, right? Like it's not simply like from childhood, like from our families, it's societal, right? Like we talked about, like in our careers and our work, feeling the need to like bend over backwards for people. There are all these ways that like it's not simply what we grew up around, it's also like the expectations that we sense from other people because of the world that they've grown up in.
Yeah.
And so it can be this thing where I think that rather than being former people pleasers, the truth is we're recovering.
So true.
We're not ever really quote unquote not that, because there's always going to be a part of us. And honestly, I don't think it's even a bad thing about us that we want other people to be happy, that we care about how other
Yeah.
people feel. The one thing is that we just need to look and see, am I making other people comfortable at my own expense? And when that is when we notice that I'm making somebody else comfortable at my own expense, that's where we need to begin to set those next level boundaries. So there's always going to be this place where we're going to have this fear, this guilt, this sadness, the grief about this version of us that we're letting go. And I really wish that somebody would tell you this about boundaries, that it's not going to be
Yeah.
easy, that it's not going to be
I
one and done,
know.
that there's going to be this discomfort, that you're going to second guess yourself and feel like, oh my God, I'm doing it all wrong. I'm
Of
making people
course.
mad, and still keep going. This is part of the healing and the growth. Um, and it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you. It means
No.
that you're doing the things, right? You can still feel shaky and still be
And
clear, right? And that guilt that you're feeling, it's simply your nervous system detoxing the people pleasing, right? So you're like letting go of a new level of people pleasing, and it doesn't mean that you messed up. So sometimes, right, like unfortunately, that means that peace, it sometimes sounds like silence, right?
yeah.
And sometimes we have to recognize that silence used to terrify us, right? Like we're more comfortable with the noise, we're more comfortable with that person around, even if it hurts us a little bit. But when
That's
we let go of those things, those people, those situations, that's when we can begin to really see and have a new level of relationship. So it's about like creating space for the relationships that we really want to have, right? So um again, to me, we're not gonna like get out of this.
yeah.
It's more this space for us to know like, okay, I know what this looks like and I'm ready for the next level. I'm ready to set like firmer boundaries, to speak more of my truth,
Yep.
and to still hold other people with love within that.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for being here today. As always, Diana, how can we reach out to you?
Yeah, so you can find my website, savorlifewithdiana.com. That's SAVOR Life with Diana. And you can also find me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Diana Bejasa Speaks. That's DianaBejasa Speaks. If you want to talk more about boundaries, if you're ready for that next level for yourself, if you know that you don't want to keep sacrificing yourself, your happiness for these ambitious career goals that you have, but you're also not willing to give those up, let's do a consultation. You can apply on my website.
Perfect. Which is what? Savor Life with Diana. Thank you so much, sweetheart. Always a pleasure having you here. Have a great day. And again, happy Mother's Day. It still exists. Great week. Enjoy it.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.